This week on Quality Digest Live, we look at the difference between millennials and perennials when it comes to retaining workers.
That's still funny. Plus, we speak with Jana Barker of Fermilab for this month's CMS Corner. That more when we come back.
Today's episode of Quality Digest Live is sponsored by Olympus Lex OLS 5000 microscopes, the next generation of surface metrology.
Welcome back to Quality Digest Live for December 14th, 2018. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief of Quality Digest.
And I'm Quality Digest publisher, Mike Richmond. Well, you know, Dirk, we got a really interesting rip from the headlines this week. We like to start the show off many times by ripping from the headlines a story that one of us read. This week, I had a look yesterday and earlier today at a story on the Bloomberg site from the Conference Board. The Conference Board, we've covered the Conference Board a lot. I'm sure a lot of you out there are familiar with the Conference Board. They do interesting reportage, generally on kind of the broader contours of the marketplace and business and the business realities, and of course Bloomberg covers that too. Well, this particular piece looks at a shortage of blue-collar workers. This report that the Conference Board did. Shortage of blue-collar workers and what that means for the U.S. labor market in terms of pay, wage equality, wage inequality, and drawing more women into the job force too, which is interesting for some of these blue-collar jobs. Now the shortfall is being driven by this shrinking supply of workers for manual jobs and lower-paying service jobs too. And really what this is going to mean is it's going to mean eventually an upward pressure on wages in industries like construction, transportation, hospitality, food service, the lower wage jobs in many cases. And it has implications for inflation, very, very strong implications. Now we've had a 10-year economic expansion, as we all know out there, but that really may be nearing an end. Many economists feel like it's nearing an end. We're probably going to see that kind of turn very, very soon. And now my personal opinion, and this isn't part of the story, but I'll just say this, I feel like the current administration's policies on tax policy is probably not helping to not overheat the economy. So it's probably leading to more inflation, which is going to lead to these pressures on wages. In any event, employment right now, and I'm looking at this from the report, 3.7%. That's the lowest in nearly 50 years.
Okay.
It's incredible. I mean, on face of it, that's a great thing. But what that means, again, is the overheating maybe of the economy. And manufacturers and others with physically demanding jobs are finding it tough to fill those positions because there's just not as many people out there. Now, this plays into things like automation and offshoring. Now, a few years ago, a decade ago, those were expected to really devastate these lower wage jobs, automation, outsourcing. But there's some countervailing forces that are maybe changing that a little bit. I mean, it hasn't happened because, for a couple of reasons. One is because not everybody can automate. A lot of these organizations, these companies can't automate. It's not cheap to automate, right? And those that have outsourced already probably have, or we're going to outsource, probably have outsourced already. In other words, I mean, there's a lot of the things that people thought were going to affect these lower wage jobs haven't really done as much of that as they thought it would.
Do you have a question for me?
Well, I'm gonna. No. I mean, but do you have a question for me?
No. I think it's really interesting. I'm just wondering why I'm here. That's.
Well, because I'm going to get to you in a minute, Dirk. You are so
I'm chomping at the bit.
Well, this has been reflected. I'm going to go through the rest of the story, Dirk. If you be patient for a minute. Output per hour worked has risen at an annual average rate of 1.2%. Okay, since the recession ended in June.
Per hour. Okay, gotcha. Productivity.
Right, and that's below the 2.2% post-World War II pace. And companies might be approaching the limits of how much their operations they're really able to outsource, as I mentioned. So the combination of all this really is leading to these blue-collar jobs earning more and being forced to give bigger wage increases. Companies are getting creative and offering perks, more breaks, rejiggered work schedules, greater flexibility, and that's pulling more women into the workforce. Okay, all these additional benefits.
Okay.
And it's really been evident in this transportation sectors and other sectors like that. So the question ultimately to get to you is, is this something that we feel like is all these things are affecting what we see out there? That in manufacturing jobs, there's going to be more opportunities for people to get not only the lower wage jobs, but will that have upward influence as well on people that are looking for more middle level jobs as well?
I don't know.
I mean, ultimately, there's going to be an upward pressure. That's what the Conference Board is saying, is that all this is going to kind of percolate up and form some upward pressure to help people have better wages. And is that good for the economy as well?
Well, I don't know, because from what I understand, you're right, unemployment is at a record low, but wages are stagnant.
But they're not stagnant at that lower level. Apparently, from what this report is saying, that at that lower level, we're beginning to see more of that percolating up, because they need to fill these jobs and they're having a tougher time. People with disabilities are coming into these jobs. More women are coming into these jobs that traditionally have been jobs that were just done by men.
Right, but I'm not sure. Are they coming on these jobs? Are they getting? Is the Conference Board saying they're getting paid better wages? Because my understanding from everything I've been hearing is that wages pretty much across the board have been stagnant.
Apparently, from what they're saying, not at this level, where there's now pressures
at the bottom,
that because of these forces, that the assumption was that these jobs were going to go away, they're not going away.
Okay.
Again, for all these different reasons. I mean, not everybody can outsource. Not everybody can automate. A lot of these.
I don't know within why it would. I'm not sure why it would percolate up. I'm not sure what effect that has.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Unless the lower level jobs started paying more than the higher level jobs, well then if you're working at a higher level job, you're going to go,
right.
Gee, how come the janitor's getting paid more than me?
Well,
maybe.
I guess what I'm saying is that they can't fill those jobs, right? And they need to bring more. Have more incentive for people
the
to
lower
fill
level
those jobs, those lower level jobs. That eventually will, percolate up, and that would be more revenue for those people that are working in other fields as well. I mean, maybe for that reason, maybe for the reason that there's just going to be more wage competition.
That's the only reason I could see it, because I don't see what would drive it other than competition. If you're hiring people on lower level positions for money that's starting to approach what middle-level positions are getting, then I can see, you're going to have wage competition. But other than that, I don't see why one would, and I'm not an economics guy, so I don't know, but I don't see why one would necessarily influence the other.
Maybe. But I mean, and that's an inference that I'm drawing from this too. But I mean, I think that ultimately the takeaway here is that these lower-level jobs are more of a struggle in filling them, and ultimately that's going to be good for people that are looking for those jobs. May not be so good for the broader economy, again, as it's going to contribute to the overheating of the economy going forward.
Staying with that thought, let's because this ties in to my story. So let's go on to this next story, because I think this is pretty interesting. There was a story called "Perennials, Not Millennials, Will Trigger the Next Wave of Talent Retention." Efforts. And that was the title of an article by Corin Pertil in Quartz magazine last week. Good magazine. The headline kind of says it all. Us older folk, that would be like me, but not necessarily Mike, are starting to outnumber the youngsters, and employers are taking note. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, from 1994 to 2024, it's about 30 years. Actually, it's exactly 30 years. Workers 55 years and older will go from being the smallest segment of the U.S. working population to the largest. There's a lot contributing to this. Older people are healthier and able to work longer, and coupled with that, many either have to or want to keep working. So it isn't unusual to have employees working long after Social Security retirement age, into their 70s or even older. So you're seeing this growth, basically, nutshell, the older people are staying on the jobs longer, so your workforce is actually getting older. It's actually even more pronounced in other societies. Japan has this incredibly much older workforce, much so than the US does. So while not all the oldsters are excited about working until they drop, there are benefits to employers, according to the author. As age diversity on work teams goes up, so does productivity and performance. As Pertl points out, research from the Millikan Institute Center for the Future of the Aging and Stanford Center on Longevity found that older employees took fewer sick days, showed stronger problem-solving skills because we're smart, and older, and much more sage. Not only that, the older people were more likely to be highly satisfied at work than younger colleagues. Most likely because, hey, they're just glad to be alive. You wake up in the morning, woohoo! I'm still breathing. Let's go to work
and making money.
put my teeth in, and hell, I'm good to go. All right. All this has led to some interesting programs being done by employers specifically for the purpose of retaining these older employees and compensating them and keeping them on the job longer. For instance, according to Pertl, CVS Pharmacy allows older employees working in states that have cold winters to temporarily transfer to stores in warmer states during the winter, which actually works out good because those warmer states, let's say Florida, all the old people go to Florida. As your folks know, I want to go to Miami.
That's right. They do.
And they do.
That's warm.
And of course, a lot of older people, they use CVS pharmacies. And now you got these older employees at CVS pharmacies, maybe in Minnesota during the winter, and they go, hey, I'd love to work in Miami during the... And so CVS is accommodating that.
That's really awesome.
And so it's kind of a win-win, right? So... by the way, there is a benefit to the economy as well. The longer people work, the longer they are paying more in taxes, unless they're drawing down maybe on, perhaps on Social Security, maybe not collected right away. So the benefit to the economy is also there as well. So I just thought this kind of ties into what you're saying earlier, because you do have this one segment of the workforce, which is the older group. Some of them are returning to work. So it's not just that they've been working and they continue working. You've got older people who maybe for financial reasons or because they're bored of being retired are now joining the workforce, and maybe they're joining at these lower level positions that you're talking about, but they've made a good working wage. They're not going to join for $7 an hour, right? They're gonna, if you're going to hire me and all my skills, you're going to pay me for it.
Yeah, and I mean, you go where the jobs are. I mean, this is also not necessarily just you want to work because you want to work. I mean, many times you need to work, and you're working because you need to continue to earn a salary. So these jobs that are available for your perennials, right, as the term was, are really important. They are an important part of the economy. And if you think about it, if you're going to live on average, if you are 70, okay, you probably got a pretty darn good chance of living to be 85 or 90 at that point. If you look at the actuary tables, right? So I mean, if you retire at 70 and you're going to be looking at 20 years of retirement, that's a long time to have to make your retirement last.
Right.
So people are now looking at this as an opportunity to kind of come in and out of the workforce. Some people kind of pseudo-retire in their 50s and 60s, maybe go back to school, get some more education, with the plan that they're going to work longer. So it's not like you're going to just have one chunk of retirement at the end of your life. Maybe you want to travel for a year or two, and you want to take some time to pseudo-retire again in your 50s or 40s even, right? It's a different environment. It's a different work environment. And that's what we're saying in both of these stories is that the assumptions that we had about what work is and what the economy is aren't really necessarily holding water anymore. So it's really more flexible, and it's got to work for the workers as well as for the companies and the broader economy.
Exactly.
That's really the takeaway, I think. All right. Well, it's now time for this month's CMS Corner. We really like this segment because it's the segment, the opportunity where we chat with world-class industrial professionals who are associated with our very close partners, the Coordinate Metrology Society, the CMS. And the CMS is the authority for hardware, software, services, and peripherals within large volume, close tolerance, portable, three-dimensional test, measurement, and alignment. And the group's annual conference, the CMSC, occurs each summer at a different venue across the country. CMSC 2019 is going to take place in Orlando, Florida, starting on July 22nd, so mark your calendars now for that. One of the key issues confronting industry today is the need to encourage more young people to pursue jobs in science, technology, engineering, and math, the STEM fields. Our guest on CMS Corner today is an extremely talented and accomplished engineer who is still relatively early in her career, so we'll be eager to hear about her personal journey. She's Jana Barker of the Alignment and Metrology Department at Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory. Jana, welcome to Quality Digest Live.
Hi guys, thank you for having me here today.
Of course.
Well, before we get started, why don't you tell us what you do at Fermilab, what your role is?
So I am, as you said, part of the alignment and metrology department. We are taking care of aligning Fermilab's experiments and keep Fermilab straight, as I like to say. I am particularly on a experiment which is called mu2e, where I take care of all the metrology and alignment aspects, so quality control, so from very small parts to establishing a very precise reference network inside the building, but it doesn't end with just the building. It's also a highly precise network within the whole Fermilab. So Fermilab is 10.5 square miles of area, and we take care of reference networks in the whole area.
Very interesting. Yeah, we were talking a little bit before the show. I know you and Dirk were chatting a little bit about your background, your educational background, and how you kind of came to your current position with Fermilab. Can you kind of walk through that with us and the audience a little bit?
So I started my high school in a professional civil engineering high school, and after that I was thinking what to do next, and I was very interested in nuclear physics, but that didn't really work out for me. So I've decided to join the geodesy family and went to Czech Technical University in Prague to study a bachelor's in geodetic science with a specialization in geodesy, cartography, and geoinformatics. And then I continued for master's in the same, and I did we called it an engineering geodesy, which is the construction side geodesy and those kind of stuff. But I did not hear about metrology even within the school. It was just a very boring subject about how to certify tape measurements, tape measures. So then I really sucked in it in the first time. When I first time got a theodolite, I got an error of 1 meter or 3 feet or roughly like that, and I was like,
close enough.
I'm going to starve to death in this in this line of job, and it got better slightly. So now from the meter precision, I play with the submillimeter, and I'm very passionate about getting it beyond what the instruments can actually get. So
in the Czech Republic, so you went to a technical high school, you said. And is that for? I mean, I'm not familiar with the Czech Republic. Is that a decision that you make when you're ready to go to high school, that you can go to a particular type of high school that specializes in different things?
Yes, correct. So you can study civil engineering on a high school or mechanical engineering, but also become a kindergarten teacher or something. So you decide when you're 15 after elementary what to do. And some of the people actually stay there for their whole life. So what you have to decide in 15 years of age what to do the whole life. That's a little bit harsh.
I'm still trying to figure out. 62. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Exactly.
I'm working here for now, so.
Well, having that perspective, listening to that a little bit, obviously you had a lot of skill for this at a young age. I mean, 15 is very young. So you had an idea that you wanted to get into the STEM fields at a very young age. How can our industry, the metrology industry in particular, how do you think we can do a better job of encouraging people to understand the opportunities that exist in the field? And how can we kind of mentor young people, young women in particular? It's important, of course, to have good balance in our field. How do we mentor folks like yourself to understand the opportunities that exist in metrology?
So I still have a little trouble with figuring out that too, because I had an internal drive which drove me here, and I'm really bad with languages and people, so a technical field is a clear go-to for me. But I believe that what we should do is we should be heard. We should show the young people that we are here, and it's an opportunity, because when you go somewhere, and I do a lot of STEM thanks to Fermilab here, and when I go somewhere, they are like, oh, so you're the weather people?
Right.
Or when I say the geodesy part, they are like, oh, so you're studying rocks. No, sorry, wrong, twice. So I think we should show the world that we are here and we are important. And I like Alfredo saying last time that he had this iPhone and it just came up from the factory, right? But if you're a metrologist, you know that that's not how that happened. So to show the people that that's not how iPhones happen.
Now, did you have somebody you mentioned that you were kind of internally motivated, intrinsically motivated. This all interested you, and so that's how you kept going with it. But was there anybody in your life that was kind of, I don't know, a mentor or somebody that you looked to who also kind of steered you in a direction, or was it just purely just your own interest, your own excitement about the topic?
Well, my big idol is the director of a nuclear office in Czech Republic, Dana Drábová, and I really look up to her. And
so there was somebody in your life who kind of kept your interest going and showed you that there was a path forward. It wasn't that you could pursue this passion of yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There are a lot of people which are encouraging passion for anything. It doesn't matter if it's bugs or I don't know, trains, or you want to be metrologist, be passionate about it and like to do it. So.
Yeah.
And there were a number of young people in Reno at CMSC this year that I saw, students that were there walking through the hall, and you were there, I know, in Reno too. That must be encouraging you to see these young people who maybe don't know a lot about the field kind of walking around and learning more about it too.
Yeah, I kind of enjoyed that. It was a bunch of very brilliant people, but not to talk just about the young people, all the older people which were there. Oh. Now I offended them for sure.
All the old guys.
And
I mean, the experienced. It's
yes.
very nice to talk to them too, but the younger people were there, really brilliant people. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed talking to them and inspirational as well.
And Jana, in the minute or two we have left, I want to talk just about the CMSC, the Coordinated Metrology Systems Conference, and the Coordinated Metrology Society. And the Coordinated Metrology Society Conference. You presented a paper this year at the show, and that paper was published in the Journal of the CMSC. I was happy to work with you on that. So what would you say about the CMS as an organization in terms of helping folks like you develop their career? What's the value of that organization from your perspective?
Well, this was basically the first time I've heard about them, about the conference, and I think they have incredible power because they have a lot of very good people. So the people can spread the word that we exist, and that's how can they use their influence. So, but I really like working with them. We are just starting to work on some STEM, like what we could do, and think about how we can influence the younger people, and I'm very looking forward to do that with them.
That's great. Well, Jana Barker, thanks so much for joining us today on CMS Corner. Really appreciate your perspectives on this, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Oh, I hope so too. See you guys.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Jana.
See you, Jana. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Good stuff there.
Yep.
Yeah, it was really fun. I had a chance
Yeah.
to meet her, and we chatted in Reno. I don't think you were there that day when her and I chatted. And yeah, I worked with her on her paper that published in the Autumn Journal of the CMSC. Really interesting paper. I didn't understand all of it, but it was on this MU2, this muon to electron.
Oh yeah, that stuff.
MU2E.
Oh yeah, you didn't understand that?
I didn't quite understand all of it. I didn't want to
play.
ask her about it because I didn't want to expose my ignorance. But she's obviously
muons and quarks and strings and stuff.
Obviously a smarty. She's studying nuclear physics when she was 15 and looking up to a nuclear physicist was her idol. That's the kind of people we need in this field, folks. So there you go.
I think I looked up my gym teacher. That's right. All right. So why do you do what you do? Or why does your company do what it does? That is the question that Jack Dunnigan asks in his article, Your Core Business? What is it really? Mm-hmm. In other words, what do you truly value? Dunnigan says this, his quote from Dunnigan here, it seems axiomatic that we make decisions and pursue courses of action based on our core values. It is important to assert that the core values come first, and it's equally true that the actions and decisions we take will reveal our core values. So, thus, do your actions reflect what you say your core values are? If not, then there's probably a problem. Your actions should reflect your core values.
No doubt.
What standards of right or good conduct are modified because of the enticement of money, and when one willingly complies on those enticements, an act of immorality has occurred, says Dunnigan. So in other words, when you stray from your core values, being led by money or something else, and you stray from that, that's immoral.
What if your core value is money?
well, then you're perfectly fine. It's like, you're honest. Okay. And it's not just money, by the way. I mean, it could be position, title, even peer approval, if those are your motivations. The pressures are there, and if we give in to them, says Dunnigan, our core values are at once revealed and ultimately remolded. So, here is what core values, when followed, will do. This is Dunnigan's list. This is what he thinks is the importance of core values, what they impact. We'll just go through this pretty quickly. Core values govern personal relationships. They determine how we value others, how we will relate to them, and how we will treat them. They will guide business practices, define what we will provide customers, how we will provide those services to them, and most critically, what we will do when something goes wrong. A core value really comes into place there is when something goes wrong with your product or service, how do you deal with it?
Yeah.
I mean, nothing kind of rubber meets the road as everything's great when your product is working well, but when all of a sudden it fails somebody, how you respond to that and how you treat your customer is a real reflection of who you are. Core values also clarify who we are, kind of our reputation. They articulate what we stand for and what we will not stand for. Again, kind of the negatives are more important. How we respond to the negatives are more important than the positives. It's easy to respond to a positive. Core values influence us in on how to reward and what to reward for. Dunnigan says we get what we pay for, and if we pay for incompetence, we'll get it. Dunnigan writes this, interesting quote, "We've become squishy as a society and tend to excuse rather bad behavior, even reward it. In many cases, we divorce performance and behavior from our reward system entirely." That's really an interesting quote. And finally, core values guide us in decision making. They require no external justification, and they reveal our essential tenets, aka principles and scruples. So in the end, a core value system is what makes people human. It was what makes us, I would add to that, what makes us good humans, what makes us moral humans. When you have your core values are your compass, and if you're smart, you stick to your compass, because if you wander off course, you're not going to get where you think you want to go.
Right. It's an interesting discussion. It's one that is really core to business practice.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you can't divorce morality and ethics from the way you work. I mean, there's a statement that, quality happens when no one's looking, right? I mean,
right.
But in this case, your customers are always looking. If you have an intimate relationship with your customer, especially nowadays, they're always on you. You're always getting yelped at, or social media is always chirping at you. So you've got to really understand why you're in business and what you're doing, what your processes are to handle the good and the bad, and especially the bad. He's right.
Yeah.
The negatives are where it really shines.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say, oh yeah, that's a core value, and boy, we're right on it as long as everything's running smooth.
But I mean, if you're a mid-sized company and you have a core value that says, hey, we're gonna, if it's clearly a mistake we made, we're gonna refund a customer, and all of a sudden it's a $500,000 mistake, and you're a mid-sized company. I mean, it's like, well, are you really gonna, is your C-suite gonna lose their bonus that quarter because of this? They really should. But I mean, is that gonna happen? I mean, those are the decisions where it really gets the light gets shined on it. And these are very common things. I think he's right that we have become more squishy as a society in this. In the 50s, there was this era of the salarymen going to work and with their briefcases and their hats and their overcoats and everything, and it's like it seems square, but it seems like there was more of an ethic then that this is just the way we do things.
Right.
Conformity is good because we're all going to know where we stand, and there still was cheating, of course, but.
Sure.
I think we've gotten into this era now where it's like, well, everybody does their own thing, and you get away from the conformity to a certain extent in business. And yeah, I think that there is a little more squishiness in the society that leads to, I don't want to say malfeasance, but it leads to
malfeasance.
it can lead to malfeasance. It certainly leads to more of a relaxed moral and ethical framework, I think, which is unfortunate.
Dunnigan's an interesting author. I mean, he is very down to earth, kind of real
down to earth. This is exactly the kind of stuff
he
writes about. This is exactly the kind of stuff he writes about. So if you're interested, and and by the way, we always say this, or we say this every once in a while. If you hear a story like this that you like on the show, and you say, "Hey, Jack Dunnigan sounds like an interesting cat," just go into our search bar and write "content by Jack Dunnigan." With one N.
With one N, yes, you're right.
And you'll get all this stuff, all the stuff he's written for us over the course of years. And you can do that for anybody, Don Wheeler, David Palestracci, anybody. You can do that content by in our search bar, right? And you can get all their content. Because, many times we have writers that write, obviously, about similar stuff, and you may like that.
Also, if you're in a story, you're reading a particular story, there's also right above the story, there's a little menu bar, and one of them is Author Archive. So if you click on Author Archive within a story, it'll bring up all the stories by that author.
So there you go. Usability on the Quality Digest website. All right. Well, that's our show for this week. Before we go, we want to thank our sponsor for the show this week, Olympus. Olympus's Vanta XRF analyzers provide fast, accurate elemental analysis when screening for lead, arsenic, mercury, and other toxic metals in consumer products like toys, apparel, and electronics, all to help support compliance with RoHS requirements. Other Olympus technologies include ultrasonic flaw detectors and thickness gauges, videoscopes, borescopes, industrial microscopes, advanced non-destructive testing systems, and a large selection of industrial scanners, probes, software programs, and instrument accessories. So, for more information, visit online at olympus-ims.com or click on the banner ad that's just below or just to the right down there of our video player screen.
All right, and thanks again to Jana Barker of Fermilab for joining us on today's show. And that is it for today, and we will see you next week. Yes, we will see you next week.
That's right. Have a great weekend.
So long.
Bye.
She's great.
Yeah, she was good.